Hello and welcome everyone to Nightmares Randy Part 4. This time it's for the Polish ship AsaNoyaUshiTen. A new Polish ship! Yay! A lot of you have been asking me for this one, and yeah, I'm really excited to write this, though keep in mind this is my first time writing the Polish ship. It's the introduction for this Polish ship to the channel. I'm really excited. I hope I nailed the characters, and I hope you like it. Let's go. Tendo woke up with a choked cry. It took a moment to remind himself that he was still in his bed in Paris, and most importantly, that none of the things his mind had presented him in his sleep had happened yet. Every time he closed his eyes, the nightmares returned. Before, they were an occasional occurrence, but the last weeks he had them almost every night. Tonight was the worst. It had been his third attempt at sleep, and here he was. He let himself fall back onto the mattress, utterly exhausted. His red hair spread around him like a halo, the dark color a stark contrast to his pale skin. His eyes wandered over to the clock on the nightstand, informing him mockingly that it was 5 a.m. With that, any hopes of catching any more sleep and not greeting his boyfriends like he had been turned into a zombie vanished. They'd arrive in 2 hours, but with a bit of luck, they'd be tired from the flight too and not notice anything. He knew he was grasping at straws, as if Noya was ever too tired to run straight at him and greet him with a hug that could cause an elephant to fall over. He smiled at that. It was a small, unreadable expression lost in the dark of the early morning hours. A stray tear fell from the corner of his eye. He missed them. He missed them all so much. But did they miss him? Would they be proud of the small shop he had built himself here? Would they think he could make it in Paris long term when he was already starting to doubt it? He covered his eyes with his arm and groaned annoyed, as if any of these thoughts would get him anywhere. He would just have to wait and see while trying his best. It was that simple, wasn't it? He tried to rest for at least a couple more minutes, if sleep was already out of reach, but soon he found that lying still and trying to think of nothing only made thinking of something bad easier, so he got up. If he would already behave like a walking zombie, he at least didn't have to look the part. That turned out to be more challenging than he thought. His reflection wasn't exactly hopeful. He looked paler than usual, making the dark circles under his eyes appear even darker. His hair was a mess. After a quick shower, he tried his best to salvage what could be salvaged, styling his hair the best he could. He thought about cutting it a couple of times, but he liked it, and to be honest, Oshijima seemed to have a thing for long hair, considering his choice of partners. Then, he covered the dark circles with patches of concealer and applied some blush on his cheeks and around the eyes as well. When he was somewhat satisfied, he stepped back to look at his work. For a moment, he considered going all out with the makeup. He had developed a taste for it a couple of years ago, but the little voice in the back of his head whispered, "If you want to keep them, maybe you should try to appear less like a freak." He gulped. This made no sense. He knew that they loved his makeup looks. Asahi helped him from time to time, and Noya even let him apply eyeliner to his face when they went out, though he never sat still enough for that. It made no sense to doll himself like this. But what if their taste had changed? Or if they never liked it but just indulged him, and now that they had been apart for so long, they wouldn't bother anymore? What if, after all this time, they'd noticed what a disappointment he was? He lowered his brush and put everything neatly away again. When he returned to the bedroom, he made sure everything was prepared for their arrival, and then he prepared the guest bedroom as well, just in case they didn't want to be with him that closely. Their comfort was his highest priority. When he looked at the clock, he saw that, without any delays, their flight should arrive in an hour. It would be a close call, but if he went now, he could pick them up at the airport. They told him not to. He didn't have a car, so he had to call himself a cab. They didn't want him to go through all that hassle for nothing. But it wasn't for nothing. It was for them. And he really needed them right now. The airport in Paris was huge, but even in a crowd of millions, the odd group wouldn't go unnoticed. Ushijima was tall enough to serve as a guide alone, and Asahi only added to that. However, it was Noya's loud and bright presence radiating all around him that made them unmistakable. You! A few heads turned, misunderstanding the name for the English you, but there was only one pair of eyes he was interested in. As soon as the soft brown fixated on him, they lit up, and before the others understood what was happening, Noya had deposited his luggage in Ushijima's arms and ran toward the red hair. As expected, he hugged him full force, causing them to stumble and almost fall, hadn't it been for Asahi, acting equally as quickly since he knew Noya's tendencies better than probably anyone else. Satare! I love you! I'm so happy to be finally here! He hugged him tightly, and Tendo could feel his cheeks fill out with blood at his words as he hugged him back. I'm happy too. He couldn't even put into words how good it felt to be in his arms again. The warmth radiating from Noya was something familiar and comforting. He loved him with all his heart, and part of him never wanted to let go in fear of losing him. When he did, however, Asahi was there. He greeted him much more gently and softer. The former ace placed a tender kiss on his cheek as he pulled him into his arms. Lastly, Tendo walked up to Ushijima with a small chuckle as he saw that he had been left with almost all of the luggage. He gave him a quick peck on his lips before reaching to take some of the bags. Ushijima frowned, causing Tendo's heart to jump a little in his chest, although he tried not to let it show. I thought you'd wait at home for us. Maybe they didn't want to see him so soon. Maybe they enjoyed the time it would be just the three of them before they arrived. Well, I got kinda bored, so I thought I might as well come here and get you. They slowly walked toward the exit, where Tendo already searched for a taxi from afar. It was good to keep his mind busy so he wouldn't think about what it might have meant that Ushijima reacted that way. But aren't you tired? It's so early here. Concern underlined Asahi's words as he looked at him more closely, and Tendo internally slapped himself. He forced a smile, trying to make it look careless. He wasn't supposed to worry them. Aren't you? I wasn't the one taking an hours-long flight after all. Asahi sighed and nodded. He did look exhausted, and he wasn't alone. Although Ushijima hit it better, he looked tired too. Only Nishinoya grinned brightly and looked as energetic as always. Nah, they're just weak. I'm used to it. He said it with such confidence, but as soon as they arrived home, he was the first one to fall asleep. After asking for the upteenth time if it was okay, Asahi finally relented and let himself rest beside him. You can rest a bit too, Toshi. He shook his head slightly, but his eyes were a bit unfocused and glossy, and he yawned. Tendo chuckled softly. Come on, you're clearly tired. But I just got here. I'll still be right here when you wake up. God, he was adorable when sleepy. How about I lay down with you? Then you wouldn't leave me alone after just arriving. It was so silly, but Ushijima nodded, and before Tendo knew it, he had been pulled into his arms and onto the bed. Within seconds, Ushijima had fallen asleep, as soon as Tendo lay beside him, causing him to smile. Behind him, Nishinoya reached out to hug his arm and used it as a pillow even in his sleep, trapping him between them. Looks like he was stuck. Tendo hadn't planned to fall asleep. He had been perfectly content just watching them and cuddling, but the familiar warmth surrounding him for the first time in months was so comforting he couldn't help it. At first, it even seemed like their presence held the power to keep the nightmares away, but that proved to be false soon after. By the time he woke up with a gasp, they had already assembled around him, their expressions coined by worry. All he wanted to do was hide. He felt tears assembling in his eyes. His whole face felt hot, and it took all he had to fight down the shame and fear, as he now sat so utterly exposed between them. Satori. I'm sorry. I'm okay, I swear. I'm fine. No, you're not. Why do you say that? Noya seemed almost angry, causing Tendo to lower his head. Mumbled apologies passed underneath his breath until Ushijima placed a hand gently but firmly on his shoulder to stop the trembling. Satori, how can we help? He looked at him. His eyes widened and raw with emotion. He was a wreck, but they still were right beside him. He knew they would be, so why did his brain try so hard to convince him otherwise? Do you want to talk about it, or... Please, just hold me. Immediately, Noya's arms closed around his middle and he pressed himself tightly to his chest. Ushijima hugged him from behind while Asahi took his hand and leaned forward to wipe his tears away with the other. We're right here. Whatever you need, you can tell us and we will do our best to help. He sniffed, fighting with himself to get the words out. He could trust them. He didn't need to be scared to speak his mind. He could trust them. Do you still love me? Asahi froze, his eyes widening in shock. Noya's head shot up from where he had rested it against his chest, and this half-angry, half-desperate expression returned. What kind of stupid question is that? You! Of course we love you. More than anything. I wouldn't have come to Paris if I didn't. He grumbled the last words against his chest once more, hiding against his shirt again. Behind him, he felt Ushijima nod in agreement. He is right. Although he could have said it nicer. He nudged the smaller in his side. Hey. We love you. Please tell me whenever you feel like we don't, and I'll make sure you know what we do. We all will. Satori, you're so important to me. I hate to see you cry, but if you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm right here. For now. A sad smile spread on Asahi's face, and immediately guilt overcame him. I'm sorry, sometimes when you're away, it gets to me. I know. We'll find a way, I promise. I love you. I love you too. His tears slowly ceased as they held him close. He wasn't sure yet how to deal with this, or how they'd be able to manage this while still pursuing their dreams. But he wanted to believe what Asahi said, so he let himself fall into their embrace. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you liked it. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on the next parts. Now, tell me what your favorite quote from this video was under the pinned comment, and if you have any ideas for Osasunakumaka and Daisuga Iwoi. Or, of course, if you have any other ideas and requests, put them in the request form. I would love to read them and maybe make videos out of them. I have so many already, but I'm so excited every time I see a new one. Special thanks to my nerdy neckos, you helped me so much with this channel, and if you also want to become a nerdy necko, check out the join button under this video. Here are my other social media, though I'm most active on here and on Chatty, and then there are, of course, even better other videos in the end cut. Now I hope you have a wonderful and amazing day. Bye!
Get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.